Yes, we did. We got a little.
Okay, how are you ready?
I'm all set.
All right, let's go on the record. Good evening. My name is Nathan Leacakes. I am an administrative law judge with the New York State Public Service Commission. Next to me, I have Commissioner Diane Berman. She is actually a member of the commission. The New York Public Service Commission is based in Albany. It generally has 5 members, although right now it is comprised of only 4 people. There is 1 vacancy. Commissioner Berman is a member of that commission. I call case 18E0399. This is the petition of Cassadaga Wind LLC. I'd like to thank Sinclairville and the Village Fire Department for letting us use this facility tonight. We are here pursuant to a notice that was issued August 24th, 2018. This is a notice of public statement hearing and procedural conference. And the notice states that by order issued January 17, 2018, the New York Board on Generation Siting and the Environment, the Siting Board, granted a conditional certificate of environmental compatibility and public need to Cassadaga Wind to construct and operate a wind generating facility and associated facilities in portions of Chautauqua County. Pursuant to the Siting Board order, the Public Service Commission may require approvals, consents, permits, certificates, or other conditions for the construction or operation of the Cassadaga facility, so long as it does not duplicate the need and environmental compatibility issues already addressed by the Siting Board. The Siting Board order determined that Cassadaga Wind had demonstrated a need for its proposed wind generating facility and that its plans were compatible with environmental regulations and concerns. As noted in the Siting Board order, consideration of whether to issue an Article 10 certificate does not include an examination of a certified copy of an Article 10 applicant's charter to determine whether it legally may own or operate the proposed electric plant, whether the applicant is properly registered to do business in New York State, or whether the applicant has received all required consents for the use of any municipal property or public rights of way. Instead, these determinations that involve the readiness of Cassadaga Wind LLC to commence construction are made by the Public Service Commission through its PSL Section 68 approval process, which is why we're here tonight. The Siting Board granted the applicant the right to construct and operate a wind facility, and the Public Service Commission's review here is limited to whether the applicant is ready and able to exercise its rights. It is not an opportunity for parties to relitigate issues already decided by the Siting Board. Section 68 of the Public Service Law states that the Commission may issue a CPCN after holding a hearing to determine whether a facility construction and the exercise of a granted franchise right or privilege is in the public interest. In its July 9, 2018 petition, Cassadaga Wind states that the Article 10 proceeding involved several public hearings such that the Commission could move expeditiously. On July 20, 2018, residents that will be directly impacted by the wind facility submitted a joint request to the Commission for a public hearing. Public Service Law Section 68 requires a hearing to be held regardless of the requests that were made because the issues, while limited in scope, do not directly overlap with the Article 10 process. This hearing tonight fulfills the requirements of the Public Service Law and is in part responsive to the residents' request. Commissioner Berman, would you like to say anything?
So, thank you. I'm really here as a listener tonight to go back to my fellow commissioners and share. So I just want you to know that it's important for me to come hear from all of you. So thank you.
In order to get your comments before the Public Service Commission, you do not have to speak here tonight if you do not wish to. There are other ways to comment, and you can receive information from Mr. Scott Dean of the Department of Public Service, who was at the table when you came in. For those who do not wish to speak tonight, You may submit comments through the internet or through regular mail. You may also call a toll-free opinion line and leave a comment there. Or you can send them in by email. And Mr. Dean can provide those phone numbers or email or regular mail addresses to you. When you came in tonight, if you wish to speak, you were asked to fill out a card. I have received the cards as they were signed up, and I will call each person in turn in the order that I received the cards. If you still wish to speak, you may go out and fill up a card now. It is not too late to do that. What I will do is I will call your name, and if you would please come to the podium, and as I said before we started, just make sure you speak directly into the mic so that you can be heard. We have a court reporter here who is making a transcript of tonight's proceedings. After we end the public statement hearing portion tonight, there will be a procedural conference that will be held that will also be transcribed by the court reporter. That will be a legal proceeding to determine whether any process should be made tonight. I may or may not make a ruling on that tonight. If I do not make a ruling tonight in person, I will put one in writing that will be put up on the department's DMM website. And I just want to remind people that keep in mind the Secretary's notice that I read, and try to keep your remarks to the issues that are part of tonight's proceedings. Again, the Siting Board did issue an order in January that did deal with a lot of issues. That process has different compliance efforts that are ongoing, and people may feel free to participate in that process as that's going on. This is basically for the economic analysis of Cassadaga Wind LLC. With that, I have the first card, Mr.Earl Riggle. After Mr. Riggle, Tina Graziano will be next.
Thank you. I'm Earl Riggle. In the notice for the public statement hearing, the procedural conference, it's noted that the Siting Board granted a conditional certificate of environmental compatibility and public need. It later states the Siting Board granted the right to construct and operate a wind facility. To determine whether, but they do not yet have permission to construct this project since the conditions have not yet been met. To determine whether Cassadaga Wind is ready and able to exercise this right, there should be a plan in place that meets the conditions of the certificate. So far, Cassadaga Wind has posted a number of compliance filings, but have not addressed many critical issues that are of special concern to those of us who will be living in close proximity to the turbines. Noise and shadow flicker are two obvious ones. It is my understanding that Cassadaga Wind agreed to discuss the problem of meeting the noise standards with our attorney for the concerned citizens, Mr. Abraham, and sound expert, Mr. James. So far, there has been no contact. It is not clear whether or not it is possible to site the turbines in a manner that will satisfy the conditions of the certificate issued by the Siting Board. In their petition for the certificate of public convenience and necessity, Cassadaga Wind asked for an expedited proceeding so that they could begin tree clearing. I have witnessed the wholesale destruction of forested areas of neighboring Arkwright Township this last winter during construction of the Arkwright Summit Wind Project, and I am very concerned that the same degree of forest devastation or worse will take place here, only to find that Cassadaga Wind cannot or will not complete this project. I don't want to see this project built, but at least don't destroy acres of forest in a rush just to get something started. The hurry is about saving money, but making sure the project can be built, or making money, make sure the project can be built to meet the certificate is about the public.
Thank you. Next is is Tina Graziano, and then after Ms. Graziano is Mark Twichell.
Tina Graziano, Forestville, New York. Thank you for allowing this hearing. I am requesting the certificate for public convenience and necessity be denied. There is no economic value to be had here. People will see increased electric bills, property devaluation, abandoned homes, and our biggest asset of beauty destroyed. This means the end of tourism to this area. This will be a huge loss of revenue. And now we have the question of project ownership and their viability. We are currently experiencing impacts of the Arkwright turbine startup. Economically, a certain disaster for this entire area. 22 homes and properties have gone up for sale since the construction started. More will certainly follow as the complaints on living conditions will multiply. No one will buy into a toxic factory, only an exodus. The same lawyer, Dan Spitzer, has been paid by the wind companies to obviously keep the same dangerous guidelines in all local townships, same limits on setbacks, noise, flicker, etc. Now we all have the same dangerous impacts as the neighboring project. What economic value is there to this area when everyone is trying to leave and no one is buying in? Please deny the certificate. Cassadaga Wind claims 126 megawatt nameplate capacity. This is using tens of thousands of acres of land. What is the real capacity? Not the nameplate capacity claimed by the wind company. The real wind efficiency rate in Western New York is 24%, and that's according to the Federal Energy Information Administration. Therefore, 24% of 126 megawatts is 30.18 megawatts. The actual rating should be 30.18 megawatts. During this process, there has been a failure to describe and evaluate reasonable alternatives such as the existing state-of-the-art gas-fired electric power plant a few miles away in Dunkirk. It is ready to go with a 450 megawatt capacity and potential for double that. Dunkirk Power occupies only 98 acres. Opting instead for a biased rationale for pre-selected methods rather than an impartial assessment of alternatives. Given the existence of the Dunkirk gas-fired power facility as a viable alternative with reliable, affordable, dispatchable electricity, the Cassadaga Wind Project is not in the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Mark Twichell and then John Conway after.
Thank you. Mark Twichell, Fredonia, New York. I wish to address the issue of economic burden, which was mentioned in the recommended decision but was not specifically quantified. I have quantified the impact by calculating the total losses in property values for the townships of Cherry Creek and Charlotte, which host turbines. Losses in agricultural value due to pest survival enabled by turbine bat mortality. Losses in tourism dollars to the townships of Cherry Creek and Charlotte. And lost economic opportunity due to the granting of the pilot agreement instead of full taxation. I will enumerate each of these losses. Losses in property value range from $22 million to $45 million per year based on total assessed value of taxable properties in Cherry Creek and Charlotte, reduced by a low of 15% and a high of 30%. Losses in tourism are based on the townships of Cherry Creek and Charlotte, representing 2 of the 21 townships in the county, or 7.4% of the townships. Chautauqua County publishes $292 million as its tourism value, resulting in a loss of $1.2 million at a low metric of 6%. If we use the University of North Carolina's 80% metric, there will be a loss of $17.3 million as a result of this project to Chautauqua, to the 2 townships in Chautauqua County. The losses in agriculture result from data published on value of bats to pest control. The value for the whole county is used since the effects of bat mortality will be observed county-wide. The losses range from a low of $1.2 million to a high of $18.4 million. These are losses as a result of bats who are dying as a result of turbine mortality, compounded by the white nose syndrome. To quantify the loss of economic opportunity, I calculated at $1 million. This reflects the difference between full taxation of the project's assets versus the amount of the pilot agreement granted by the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency. To calculate the value of the project to the townships of Cherry Creek and Charlotte is calculated by adding the totals of the pilot and the host community agreement, the landowner fees, the tax value to the various fire districts, and the value of facility operations and maintenance. So on the plus side of the ledger, we have a total community benefit from this facility at $2.5 million per year. If we apply that $2.5 million per year against the total projected losses, we come out with a negative of $23.8 million lost to the county and the two townships as a result of this project. And that's the low end. If we apply the $2.5 million positive benefits from the project to our community to the range, to the total amount of losses, we come up with $79.8 million, which is lost to the county and our community because of this project. These losses do not include changes in microclimate, emergency response system losses, such as helicopters not being able to function, their radar function if it's foggy in turbine zones, media signal losses, cell phones, television, radio, losses due to the destruction of social fabric of neighbors and families torn and divided by this contentious issue. With a loss range of $23.8 million to $79.8 million, I do not see how this is in the public interest, or not specifically in the public interest of the citizens of Chautauqua County. I hereby request that the certificate for public convenience and need be rejected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Twichell. John Conway, and then after Mr. Conway is Chris Burton.
I love and enjoy my country living and the way of life, my beautiful sunrises and sunsets without obstructions. I love my peace and quiet along with just listening to the birds and crickets. But now this is all about to change with the building of these wind turbines without a vote. I am very much against wind energy, especially with the wind companies' lies and mob power tactics. Just like Res pressured a Villanova Town Board member to resign, and how they completely filled Villanova Town Hall with RES employees so residents couldn't come in. They lied to Villanova when Res said they would bury all overhead lines if they voted in taller turbines. Come to find out, Villanova was never getting any overhead lines to begin with. Just Hanover. Finally, Hanover came to its senses and listened to the people and voted down the height increase. Cassadaga Wind Project doesn't even know what size turbines, 600, 700, 800 feet. These wind projects have way too many negatives than positives, such as visual, noise, health, and major economic impacts. Not just for the town, but for the county. Just look at what the Arkwright is living with right now. We were told that they don't make any noise, but this was just a lie. They sound like a jet that never lands. The economic impact will cost this community and county millions. The lost revenue from tourism and property tax, also the lawsuits against landowners, townships, and wind companies. This is a promise. We as a red shirt community are tired of our voices not being heard, and we are not going to put up with our way of life being destroyed by big wind and naive board members that have been given too much power and does not have its residents' best interest in mind. This community will survive without big wind, and with the proper leadership, it will thrive again. Please don't give in to big wind. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Burtons, and then Joni Riggle next.
Hi, Chris Perkins, Cherry Creek. I don't have much to say. I didn't really write anything, but what I do have to say is I really think the economic impact will affect the Amish more than anyone else. Nobody's going to want to come down here and purchase from the Amish when you have a 500-foot, 600-foot turbine sitting over their house. How is that interesting to see? It's horrible for the Amish, and I don't even see any Amish here. They have no say in this, and they're affected more than anyone here. So I really think that's going to kill our beautiful views and just destroy this entire area. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Joni Riggle and then Roy Harvey.
Thank you for this opportunity. We ask that Cassadaga Wind not be granted a CPCN or allowed to start tree clearing for the following reasons. Regarding public interest and safety, Cassadaga Wind LLC shamelessly argued with the recommended decision, claiming they should not be required to protect the quiet enjoyment or even the future use of our property. That's telling. They also were rebuked by DPS staff multiple times for placing profit over the welfare of our community. Cassadaga Wind has been intentionally deceptive on many issues also. Now they are requesting an expedited CPCN. It appears they lack the ethical standards and correct motives necessary to safeguard residents. Of concern, Energy has retained the same Everpower CW staff and legal counsel. For these reasons alone, the CPCN should not be granted. It is only prudent, fair, and in our public interest that a CPCN not be granted or any tree clearing commence, which it looks like they are starting to tree clears out near Cherry Creek, until all compliance conditions are met and approved and all necessary leases, easements, good neighbor agreements, and municipal consents are obtained. Cassadaga Wind has opposed the 50 decibel property line noise limit condition because it will likely be impossible to meet. Before any tree clearing or granting of a CPCN, they must present the final turbine model selection with an updated PNIA. Regarding financial feasibility, cost, and reliability, we request proof of funding and investors for this project and that these documents are submitted to the PSC and parties for review before a CPN is granted. Cassadaga Wind states that the cost of constructing the facility will be financed through a balance sheet, a construction loan, or other financial mechanism. That sounds very vague and uncertain. We deserve facts. Contrary to what Mr. Moscato claims, obtaining FERC and the Committee on Foreign Investment U.S. approval is totally irrelevant and does not greenlight the CPCN. It is not under the purview of these agencies to establish or scrutinize the financial feasibility of an LLC to construct a wind project. The Committee on Foreign Investments U.S. actually is only involved in assessing matters of national security. FERC looks at grid reliability and costs. I previously submitted documentation regarding the unprecedented, monumental transition involving Energy's parent company, RWE and E.ON. The takeover deal with Energy is not expected to even be finalized until the end of 2019, and the company reports that Energy will likely dissolve within 2 years. Who knows the fallout or outcome of these negotiations? Risky business. Here are recent telltale industry headlines. Example, Germany's energy profits fall amidst heavy customer losses. E.ON RWE deal on energy is threatened. The E.ON RWE deal is enough to cause a short circuit. RWE banking bad on energy threatened. The E.ON RWE, deal is enough to cause a short circuit. Germany's energy profits fall amidst heavy customer losses. RWE banking bad. Germany power giant RWE risks becoming largest bankruptcy in German business history. Does not sound very stable financially to me. If the sale of energy goes wrong, RWE will face bankruptcy. Mr. Moscato argues that what is happening with these German energy giants has no relevance. He's kidding, right? The collapse of RWE or E.ON would be as catastrophic as Enron's collapse, with the ripple effects that affected every sector of the economy. Such major flux in the German energy market will make potential investors skittish. Energy acquired Everpower Holdings, but states they will analyze each developing project individually. According to a recent article in Renewables Now, the corporate structure, economics, and financial feasibility of these projects is still being worked out. Quote, "The realization of the pipeline should be gradual," Innogy said. "It will review the projects separately to determine their economic attractiveness in accordance with the internal return targets. It will consider various options for the ownership structure and funding." Will Innogy balk at the $8 million letter of credit for decommissioning to be posted at the start of construction? Already, our town is patiently waiting on funds from Innogy. Will Innogy recognize that this project will have substantial production and profit losses due to low winds and necessary curtailment for both bats and the 21 turbines that are depicted to need to be operating in curtailment NRO mode just to meet compliance? Add to that the substantial financial impacts from the dwindling PTCs, because that's what all this is about, trying to hurry up with this PCPN, and costly new tariffs on steel and aluminum will have greater impacts on their financial status. Mr. Moscato states the project is economically feasible. Quote, "Income to support the project will be generated by the sale of energy pursuant to an executed offtake agreement and the sale of green attributes." Well, if that is the income source, our winds, they better hope the winds start blowing. Bill Spencer, Everpower rep, candidly admitted to my husband and myself at our kitchen table June 24th, 2016, that this area has low winds. He also stated that he too would be worried about noisy turbines needing NROs. Not very comforting coming from a company rep. With our typical 24% capacity factor for our region, this 126 megawatt rated project will be lucky to produce the 30 megawatts. In sharp contrast, Mr. Moscato states Cassadaga Wind has confirmed the excellent wind generation capacity of the site. If that is true, why are all the turbine models selected for this region specifically designed for low to modest winds? Why is the neighboring wind project RES requesting 600-foot turbines, claiming that at 500 feet, like ours, they can't be viable or even make a profit? We request to see the Met Tower data obtained over 5 years to verify Mr. Moscato's glowing report. We will sign a confidentiality order if needed, but this information should be public knowledge. We are the ones impacted here. Please don't forget the public needs of upstate New York. We count too. It is grossly unfair that New York City and Long Island appear to have the only public needs or interests taken under consideration. If they would be just incentivized to turn off their neon signs, skyscraper lights, they would be much better served than any benefit from this obscenely expensive wind project. Adding insult to injury, the power purchase agreement is with New England ISO. New York State won't even benefit. In fact, this project will only add to the hefty financial burden already placed on New York taxpayers and ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riggle. Roy Harvey, and then Patricia Greenstein next.
Hello, my name is Roy Harvey. I'm from Mayville, Chautauqua County. At the Article 10 hearing last year here in Sinclairville, we heard acousticians Richard James and Jerry Punch thoroughly explain wind pollution derived from industrial turbines. This was not anecdotal evidence, this was scientific evidence. Since that hearing, there have been major peer-reviewed studies on the danger of the noise of wind pollution. But right here in our county, in the Arkwright wind project, case studies are at your disposal. You can see and hear for yourselves their stories. The latest posting on Chautauqua Updates on YouTube. And you can see it now. A young woman, for example, some of the comments, and these comments are coming from people who didn't really protest, believed their town boards, believed some of the neighbors who'd signed on the contracts. And this woman, a young woman, says, when they kicked these things on, it was like jetliners. It's noise, absolutely noise pollution. It's awful. How can you help me move away from here? How can I get out of here and still have my property value? That goes directly to the question of economics. The property values are going to drop immediately. As a matter of fact, one of the town boards offered the woman half the price of her property. I'll give you right now, one of the town boarders said, I'll give you half the price of what you want. When another woman who supported the wind project, she told us, she said, it sounds like an airport in my backyard. My message to the Arkwright Town Board is, we need to focus on making sure the neighboring communities that we might be able to help find a place to retreat, so we don't fall into the same trap, they don't fall into the same trap we've fallen into. There were a lot of lies. We were deceived. And now people living right next door to these things are paying the price for it. We're hearing them every day. We didn't know. Our peace is gone. They say you don't know what you've got until it's gone. I didn't know what I had in Arkwright until it was gone. Another resident at this same meeting, my wife and I moved here 29 years ago. We fell in love with the peace and tranquility we had here in Arkwright. And that peace and tranquility is gone for my lifetime, forever. All I have to do is barely crack a window open, and it sounds like jets going by, and continually. Another man, jetliner syndrome, is constant. He said, it just makes you want to cry. Now I submit to you that this is the first 2 weeks of these things, and they haven't encountered infrasound, and that's going to be much worse than this. And it's a more insidious sound, and it makes its presence felt over a longer, protracted period. So, to return to the point, going forward with this project is not in the best interest economically and the health and welfare of a sizable number of people in this project, in this coming project. And I appeal to you to reject it. Thank you.
Next I have Patricia Greenstein and then Robert Reddick.
Patricia Greenstein, I've lived here for 31 years, same home. Many people have spoken before me that I don't want to repeat everything, but I want to back up. That's something that Mark Twichell said. I have worked with him to work on the economic detriments and the economic benefits of the Cassadaga Wind project. His and my numbers match up pretty close. I came up to $2.5 million in loss. And I base it on only a very low loss, and I will submit this to the DMM. So I don't want to repeat what other people have spoken of. So I basically just want to touch on a few things. I mean, we're here for this certificate of public need and convenience, and I don't really know what the public need is because we all have electricity here, we all have cell phones, and we all have, so far, people are getting reception for their televisions. In the last couple of weeks since the turbine started going, there has been interruption in people's cell phones. We completely lost our cell phone. I know there was a cut in a fiber optics cable between here and Buffalo, but it still doesn't explain what's happened. We're still trying to look into it. We have almost no internet service. I have one bar on my phone, and all this stuff started up. I'm also an IT person, so I do understand all the stuff with wireless electronic communications. We do have one person who's here. I think he might speak of it, but there's somebody who lives in the Arkwright project. She has to connect electronically with medical data. I know of several other people that didn't want to come, but they have to connect with electronic via their cell phone, pacemakers, dialysis machines. They can't get a signal. It's intermittent and spotty. So basically, I'm not really sure what public need is. I've looked all over trying to find what that all means, and because this isn't like Haiti where we've been, been hit by a hurricane and lost all of our electricity. We do have electricity, we have power. There is no public need to move forward until the economics of this are figured out. I think what a lot of people don't realize is that the economic impacts, as Mark Twichell stated, is we're all going to be experiencing higher electric rates. We've already seen the city of Jamestown, The BPU was already told that they're going to have at least an 8% increase that will be distributed to all of the ratepayers in Jamestown, because they're basically paying for so-called renewable green energy. All of us will be paying, and this, it gets down to where we go one, we go all. All of us are going to suffer. We are already seeing lawsuits being started in the town of Arkwright. People are looking at lowering their property taxes because they have seen a depreciation in the appraised value of their homes. There's almost 24 homes that have not moved up and I've been in touch with a realtor. She's been sending me updates. My husband and I put our home up for sale about 6 weeks ago. People love the house. They want to buy it. I had a young fellow stop the other day, and I had to tell him he's working on the lines for the new fiber optics they're laying with DFT. And I said, you do know that we're getting turbines here. I was told by my realtor that legally I do not have to disclose that, but morally and ethically, my husband and I feel responsible to let anybody know that there is a turbine project coming. The realtor, who I value her, I've been friends with her for many years, and she's a former colleague of one of our kids. She said, technically, you do not have to disclose that. But there have been lawsuits started all across the country where people come back and sue you, or sue the realtor. So we're running into this whole, like, what do we do? You know, how do we handle this in our community? We were planning on selling our home in a few years anyways. We're getting older, up in years. The property's a lot, but in the same token too, we don't want to pass off to what's happened. One of the people that was spoken of here up in the Arkwright project, she bought a piece of property from somebody who got a turbine, didn't even know what she was doing, and ends up with a piece of property that she can't even live on because the noise is so loud it's disturbing. We don't want to do that to somebody else. If we have to, we'll abandon the property. We're working on a backup plan. There was also most recently brought to our attention on Craigslist post, and this could actually kill my sale of my home, but I'm willing to take it on. There was a Craigslist post. I can find it, and I will even post it to the DMM. I just filed today for party person or whatever. But there was a post that was brought to our attention on Craigslist. And basically it said, buyers beware in the town of Charlotte. There's a turbine project coming. What we've heard from the Board of Realtors is that technically I do not have to disclose, the realtor doesn't have to disclose, but there could be potential lawsuits down the line. And then we get into the moral, ethical stuff. 50% of people are going to want to buy it, and the other 50% don't. So basically, it cuts your profit in half, is what I was told. So we may be stuck with a piece of property with the turbine 1,400 feet from our house. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Flicker effect, noise from the other side. I don't know what to do with it, but this is the stuff that people have to understand. And nobody's rates are going to go down. This is going to affect every single person in this room. If you have a turbine, and I see some of you smiling, if you got a turbine, good for you. But this is the 1%. 1%'s making out, and the rest of us are getting screwed over. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next I have Robert Reddick Sr. and then Jake S.
Thank you for your time. I don't have no long speech prepared or anything like that. I do have a turbine that is going to be placed at my place if everything goes through. I know a lot of people. I was born and raised in Cherry Creek all my life. Unfortunately, I'm 80 years and still around. To see all the changes that have happened around. To me, I know there's a lot of people that look at things differently, but I look at this and I represent a lot of people that have signed that they support this project. Yes, all right, I am getting a windmill on mine, which is going to financially help me, but overall, these windmills will help financially our school district, our whole township. If people look around, it's not the windmills that are sending people out, it's a lack of jobs around this area. Businesses and that, I mean, people are moving around basically to be closer to where their job opportunities are. Like I say, I don't have a big speech prepared or anything like this, but I do have a lot of friends and a lot of people that have signed into the support of the wind project, and I'd like to present this to you on behalf of them. Okay, I thank you.
Thank you for having this hearing. First of all, I'd like to know if Carrie Babcock is here. Is Carrie Babcock here? Okay, she perhaps wouldn't have liked to have her name used, but her name has been used. And I am going to read what she wrote to the Observer in comments. I was raised in Forestville and am well acquainted with the sounds that occur in the country. I chose to make my home here as an adult because I appreciate the beauty and tranquility of this area. I know what springtime peepers, traffic, and refrigerators sound like. Do not insult my intelligence. This is not that type of noise. It is a deep, constant droning, a thrum that never stops. On especially windy days, my husband and I get headaches. I don't want to be embroiled in this argument. I have not been involved. I don't want to be quoted in the paper, and I don't want to fight with my neighbors. I went to the board meeting with a heartfelt plea for help. That's the town board meeting. After witnessing the total lack of respect that the town board of Arkwright has for its community and neighbors, I am ashamed to be part of this town. The basic premise of my argument was as follows. The sound of the wind turbines is making me sick. No one will ever buy my property. I do not have the means to move without the sale of my property. Please help me. The response from the supervisor of the town of Arkwright, what do you want us to do about it? A town board member said, oh, call the wind turbine company. There was an utter and total lack of sympathy or concern. We trusted these people, these officials, when they told us we would save money on our taxes in exchange for a small whooshing sound in the background. Well, the sound changes based on the wind speed, direction, as well as your relative position to each and all of the windmills. Also, the only opinions that truly matter to me at this point are those of my neighbors who did not sign the hush and play nice agreement, and therefore still have a voice in this matter. Most noteworthy and telling are my neighbors who tell me their children no longer can sleep at night. Why would anyone make these things up? Not for public attention. I don't want it. The fact that we live in Arkwright makes the point moot. Also, why would I want to leave my home and property that have taken a lifetime of work to acquire and which I have poured my heart and soul into to beautify? Before you try to verbally assault me, I invite you to come to my home and tell me what you hear. Then and only then do you have the right to form an opinion. The only thing I can do at this point is to try and prevent this from happening to others. Please, don't let them do this to your town. Now, John B. Rhodes is the chairman of the siting board, and in the transcript of the January 17th conditional certificate for public convenience and necessity, he stated, the state policy calls for energy projects that are designed to succeed. We have heard that this energy project may not succeed because it is economically not proven to be viable. Mr. Rhodes said, designed to succeed as energy projects for the benefit of all New Yorkers, but also critically projects that protect and accommodate the concerns of local communities and of the New Yorkers who live in them. 2 weeks ago, Arkwright wind turbines began operation. 1 week ago, many residents of Arkwright attended their first town board meeting after that commencement of operation. People who trusted their town board officials when it said the impacts would be minimal. Now the people can feel and hear the turbines, and they are expressing their displeasure at the loss of the quality of life due to the sound and vibration, and concerns for their future well-being as sleeplessness and headaches begin only 2 weeks after beginning. Mr. Rhodes said, this order provides clear guidance for future projects. There are complicated matters. When we provide specific, objective, and predictable standards, we are providing a great and important help to communities and to developers as they consider future projects. Regarding specific, objective, and predictable standards, Arkwright wind turbines are adjacent to the proposed Cassadaga Wind. In fact, they overlap into Arkwright because Arkwright is one of the towns listed in the Cassadaga Wind project. The Arkwright experience provides specific and objective conditions within an existing turbine operation in close proximity to the proposed site. Specific and objective, Arkwright is real-time. It is live. It does not involve projections or faraway studies or models. It provides an absolute reality of noise, of infrasound, of bat and bird mortality. That is taking place as a result of operating turbines in this area. The real impacts of turbines in operation are there, they are here. They are available for all to understand. Chairman Rhodes again, and I quote, "This order provides clear guidance for future projects as a first Article 10 proceeding." So you're establishing precedents here that are very important to all of us and to all of New York. Clear guidance can be drawn from the real life experience of the people of Arkwright. Their daily exposure to turbine impacts serve as the clearest guidance for future projects in this area. Administrative Law Judge Dakin Leakakes, who sits before us today, also made a very fine statement when he recommended certain things at that hearing in January of 2018. Included were operational regimen designed to try and eliminate the bat fatalities and to try to develop a proactive mitigation program that may result in a net gain in bat populations, which are very important to the agriculture in this region. This requires a development and approval by DPS and DEC of the detailed approach that seeks to preserve and protect bat communities and to encourage population growth and viability. Given the goals, the stated goals in that transcript of Mr. Rhodes and Mr. Leakakes, in the presence of the real-time, actual, living, breathing site to gauge all the conditions that were speculated on during those hearings, projected during those hearings, during those study processes, we feel that both the sound and the infrasound concerns and the bat mortality concerns should be studied further in real life in Arkwright and presented at an evidentiary hearing. We respectfully request an evidentiary hearing be called to show or prove that these important issues have been addressed in real life. Further, I submit that this project is not in the public interest. Cassadaga Wind cannot render safe, adequate, and reliable service due to the questionable economic viability of the wind company and the insufficient mitigation of the endangerment of resident bat populations and the impact on the local people that infrasound and noise will have. Please deny or at least continue studying the situation through an evidentiary hearing that will bring these questions to further understanding. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Lois Jackson and then Susan Baldwin.
Thank you. I must say, you have a beautiful town here. It's seldom that I drive through and don't see children playing, families out walking. It's really a beautiful area. And I live in Arkwright. I have lived in Arkwright for over 30 years. And I think Arkwright also would be best represented by the award it won in the early 2000s as one of the best small towns around this area. But there's been some big changes in Arkwright since then. Now Arkwright is more like a reenactment of the Civil War. It's neighbor against neighbor, family member against family member. And it shouldn't be this way. Just so you know, I love preserving our environment too. I was the recycling coordinator for Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties for a couple of years before going into education. Today I teach college and high school. I have my master's and have almost completed my doctorate. I've done a great deal of research on wind turbines. Studies show that there are effects from wind turbines that include noise, flicker, loss of property values, and others. My husband and I made what we thought was a very educated decision in that we could live with wind turbines. I grew up a couple of miles from Greater Pittsburgh Airport. We had jets flying overhead quite a bit of the time, and it didn't bother me whatsoever. I honestly was not concerned about the noise. That's changed now. First, and please note that the sound is very different on different days. Okay, when it's good, you can still hear it, but it's sort of, you can deal with it. But when it's bad, it's really, really bad. We have difficulty sleeping and the ringing in our ears. But you know what? That's not the worst part. The worst part is that my 4-year-old, she's having a really tough time with it. These are pictures of her, okay? She's 4 years old. She's a bright little girl. She rides a pony, takes tap and ballet, and she's active and very coordinated. The first time, September 9th and 10th, the turbines were extremely loud. Tara said her head hurt really bad. She threw up, okay? No fever, no nothing. The second time, September 13th and 14th, Tara fell when she was getting out of bed in the morning. And whenever I asked her what was wrong, she said, "I'm dizzy, Mommy." I gave her some juice. We sat on the couch for a few minutes. She got up to go to the bathroom, and she fell on the floor again. And this is a girl who dances all over the place, okay? And I went over to her, I said, "Honey, what's wrong?" And with tears streaming down her little face, she said, "Mommy, those things just keep picking me up and throwing me around and around. I can't move right. I'm dizzy, and my head hurts." Tara has no temperature. She has no sore throat, no ear infections, or anything. She is fine away from our home. We have a camp at Cook's Forest. No symptoms whatsoever there. On Saturday, September 15th, we were driving home from a birthday party that was out of town. On the way home, you know, windows were up in our car. I got right to Center Road. Tara says, "Mommy, I'm dizzy. Hurry. Get home. I'm going to throw up." She did. Many of my neighbors' children are experiencing the similar things here. On the company's website, under noise studies, it states that the noise is even going to be worse in the wintertime. But people will be less sensitive to this because they generally spend more time indoors during windy wintertime conditions. But we have horses and cows, so we spend quite a bit of time outside because they actually take more care in the wintertime. And you know, those are great winters. You spend a lot of time digging out also. Tara loves it outside. She loves sled riding and spending time with her pony. Is she going to be able to, or is this sound going to keep her caged up inside? Would you want to live here? Please don't hurt our children like this. There needs to be more studies done on the impact that noise has on children. I don't know if talking to you will help Tara, but perhaps it'll help others that don't even realize this. I didn't realize this. It's not made up, it's real. This is like a living nightmare. If you would like to come to my house, you can come for coffee. I would welcome any of you. I will gladly call you whenever the wind turbines are loud. If you want to try sleeping there, I have a spare bedroom. You are welcome to sleep at my house. But give it an honest shot. Seriously, I'm not hiding anything. I'm laying the facts out. And my life is not pleasant. And I don't know what we're going to do. You know, just remember what Theodore Roosevelt said also. Do not let selfish men or greedy interests skin your country of its beauty, it's riches, or it's romance. Ronald Reagan also said, if we've learned any lessons during the past decades, perhaps the most important is that preservation of our environment is not a partisan challenge. It's common sense. Our physical health, our social happiness, and our economic well-being will be sustained only by all of us working in partnership as thoughtful, effective stewards of our natural resources. If your children or your grandchildren are affected like Tara and my neighbor's children, what will this do to your economics? What will this do to your town? Will you want to live here? Just make sure you know that before you sign. Thank you so much.
Next is Susan Baldwin, and then Edward Holt.
Good evening. My name is Susan Baldwin, and I live in Villanova, about 4 miles from the turbines. And already I experience a daily, almost hourly problem with my cell phone service. Thank you. I've noted that one day my grandson was riding his dirt bike round and round the garage, around the house. My other grandson was running. That's what they do. And I was watching the rest of them because there's 6 of them in the same household. So, out, round one comes around, the other one runs out. I'm calling my daughter. Get home now, get home now. There's been an accident. I don't know how bad they are. They're all crying, I'm screaming. She's screaming, I can't hear you. She hangs up on me. I call again. She can't hear me. She hangs up again. I'm in the house, like this prison, this turbine prison. No towers can hear me. Daughter can't hear me. I can't load my car with a half a dozen kids to go to the hospital. I don't know about the 911 because she finally did show up to take care of it and did take them to the hospital. That is a problem. Shall we all get landlines? Is that the answer? How many turbines do you have? How many are yours? Do you live where you can hear them? I'd like to know. I truly would. Another thing I've noticed, our town board meetings in the town of Villanova are just as low as they can get. I'm certain that you've heard of them on the news, how they are. And they, now they have new vehicles, new truck, $200,000. They saved that in their budget somehow, so it isn't showing in the town of Villanova budget, but we have one. And Mr. Reddick, are you going to like it when they come driving through your backyard, 200 feet wide, 200 feet down, plow it all up, to stand this on unsafe concrete, because they get the cheapest concrete they can possibly get because you can't see it. OSHA won't be there. You can't see that stuff. It's dirt. It's not even concrete. They dump a little concrete, mix it up with the dirt, and there you are. And then they put some more concrete on, and more concrete on, and more concrete on, until they've made this pile so the turbine can stand on it, and then it stands on shale. Boom! And we have a fire. And guess what? When you're done placing the turbines, do you take a measuring tape to where they are because they don't fit your plan? They're not that 1,200 feet distance from the house. They're much closer. Do you measure? No. Your decibel meters are supposed to be the ones that fix everything and say it's okay, but we have to give you 24 hours notice to have that test, to make sure the people in Texas can turn down the turbines. Now those things are standing out there, supposed to be like this. Not. They're more like this. So when they go whom, they're going whoa, not whom. Whoa, not whom. Whoa. And I played a video that included a turbine sound in the background in my house. It wasn't even that loud. 3 cats. Their ears were going just like that, like they were like trying to find where is this noise coming from and what the heck is it? Those are only my cats. That doesn't include your dogs, your cats, your horses, your cows, the fox, the bear, that are now, because the turbine people just took out your backyard, them bears are gonna come to you and eat your dinner that's in the garbage, because they're going to need someplace to eat. They can't sleep any more than we can when the turbines are there. Like I said, can you answer that? How many turbines do you have, and do you measure? Are they that close to your house? Because I'm very unhappy, and I don't even have the television issues yet, but they're coming and I know it. Just the phone issues are enough to destroy my day. Oh, and another thing, I bet you every one of you got in your electric bill a few months ago a request for $5 more with every bill. Now there's 135,000 people in Chautauqua County. Divide that by 4 and approximate occupation of a house. And you've got yourself about $75,000 every month, just from those kind people that think they're doing well or doing good for green energy. Another sieve right off the top without even trying. So anyways, many of you, the turbine trolls, came slithering into your community a few years ago and said, we can give you this and we can do that. And then they don't. They don't do any of it. That's just a sales pitch. You're a salesman. You're not interested in anybody's children, anybody's phone service or TV service, property value. You're going to finish and go. And by the way, the town of Villanova, like I said, has a lot of new things going on. And we're watching them. And we'll be watching everyone else's new things too. And the lawsuits, they're coming. So, like I said, $5 a bill, and how many turbines do you have? Please answer that for me.
Sorry, this is a public statement hearing. I'm not a representative of the wind company. I am a New York State Department of Public Service Administrative Law Judge. I am here to collect the comments, forward them on to the commission for them to make a decision. This isn't about me. It's not about anything to do with me. I am just here to collect the comments. It's not a question and answer. It's an opportunity to provide your statements on the record for the commissioners to make their decisions.
Okay, well, there's one more statement that I would like to make, and that is that there's, like she said, 1% want it, 99% don't. The only people making out are the people making out. And they're the ones promised these things. And an LLC, low-level commitment, means as soon as things start getting hard. In fact, I saw some guys from the turbines collect every Schwabel's hot dog, super duper, in South Dayton had. Every one, frozen. They cleaned them out. They packed their ice packs, got in their truck, and went to North Dakota. That's what they said to the lady at the store, that now we're on our way out of here. So I don't know how much more they're gonna do, but they've managed to take advantage of us this long. I don't know if they're coming back. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. If you guys were the ones that have the turbine company, maybe you can tell me how many turbines you have. Since they're so good for everybody and they're so great, how many?
Again, you're not addressing people that work for the wind turbine company. They are here, but you're not addressing the right people. But this is not an opportunity for questions and answers. This is an opportunity to give your statements on the record for the Public Service Commission to make their decision.
Okay, well, my statement being very poor reception and people in my community that literally yell at me to go home because I don't belong there. And I do. I could walk there, but they told me, stop interfering. Have a great day.
Thank you. Edward Holtz and then Christine Monteleone. And I just want to clarify while we're here for a little break that, again, we are not here about issues regarding noise, visual impacts, shadow flicker, anything like that. Those issues have already been decided by the siting board. The company, Cassadaga Wind LLC, already has a certificate to proceed with the construction of a wind turbine facility in the local area. That was granted in January of 2018. There were certificate conditions that were put on that they have to comply with that could differ substantially from the Arkwright project. The Arkwright project went through a different process. It was put through before there was an Article 10 process in place. So I just want people to be aware of that. Whether that makes a difference in the long run, I have no idea, but I do know that there was a different process that those two projects have gone through. The reason we're here tonight is about whether the specific company, Cassadaga Wind LLC, is financially viable and can proceed with financing the project to build those wind turbines in the local area, and whether the commission should grant them, the Public Service Commission should grant them a certificate of public convenience and necessity. That is a much narrower look than what the siting board did and granted in January of 2018. So there are a lot of comments that are being given, and I'm happy to hear them, and Commissioner Berman's happy to hear them. But ultimately, a lot of comments that have been given tonight don't go to the issue for why we're here or the reason why we're here. And there's nothing that Commissioner Berman or any of the members of the Public Service Commission can do about that. That is in the siting board's hands, and they are the ones that are going through the compliance process at this time. So I just want people to be aware of those things. With that, we will continue. Mr. Holtz.
Thank you. With what you said, I don't know if how much I have applies to that, but we live in, we've got a place up in Charlotte, and we're in the direct line of what's coming. So I'm here speaking for myself and my family. When I first heard of the possibility of these wind turbines going in, I tried to contact Everpower, who was in control of it at the time. After multiple calls and leaving messages over several months, I never received any call back until I left a message that the next one would be from my attorney. And that's what it took for me to get a call back. I asked, could you explain what's going to take place? I was not given very much information except for they were exploring the possibility of turbines being placed in our vicinity. I then asked how these would benefit me and my family, and they answered they wouldn't. I asked if my electric bill would be cheaper. They said no. I asked if my school or property taxes would go down. They said no. I then asked if they would create any significant amount of long-term jobs. Again, the answer was no. Looking for a reason of how these are going to benefit us. I was informed by him, I informed him I was not very happy about this, and he said that people who were directly affected by them are sometimes offered a financial compensation, and I will be. They're directly across the street with the rising sun. He asked for my email. He said he would send it off to me and was going to send me a visual impact model of my dwelling. I got the financial contract that I think that only a trained attorney can make heads or tails of. I was informed later that if I signed it, I would lose any and all right to lodge a complaint or sue for any type of damages. Not to mention, the amount that they offered me would barely put a dent in my hefty property taxes that the local and the state governments enjoy so much. The visual impact email never came, even after multiple requests. I heard very little to nothing about the project after that. My wife and I purchased this property 15 years ago, mainly for its beautiful setting and the fact that it was out of town and it would be a great place to have our children enjoy the great outdoors and everything that a agricultural area had to offer. I'm sure everybody here has seen the same claims in the sale ads when somebody's selling their property, their home, or a local business wants you to come, that all say, come to the heart of Chautauqua County. Boating, fishing, hunting, antiques, snow sports, and now we can add the home of giant loud wind turbines, destroying our beautiful landscape view. Anybody and everybody who has ever come to our place has made the same comment as soon as they get out of their car. This is the most beautiful view I've ever seen. You have a slice of heaven here. Over the years, we slowly improved upon our property, and every time I've ever done that, I had to meet all state, local zoning restrictions and local regulations and laws. And I can guarantee you that if I erected an enormous structure that caused shadow flickers, noise around the clock, and was pretty much a blatant eyesore, one, they would have not allowed me to do that. Two, they probably would have given me a summons or written me up and penalized me. So how is it that a private company can come into an agricultural area? This is an agriculturally zoned area. I've looked into this because I own my own business. Okay? Without asking the residents if they mind if these eyesores go up, and if they mind having the noise around the clock obstructing their view and hindering their lives, as well as degrading our property value, is even possible. And all the time, all in the name of a major company making lots of money with a few select landowners, which I believe some do not even reside or even live near them or in this area. Capitalizing, making a profit off other people's discomfort and suffering and the loss of our property values, without even giving the local residents a chance to vote or even ask us if we want these here. We were never asked, we were never given a choice. Some of the people I've been told on these boards actually are making money or are receiving money, or family members are. So I don't see where the fairness in even these decisions came from. There are giant industrial-sized structures and machines being put up in agricultural zoned areas for mere profits. With cocaine reopening and all the money that they're pumping in there to bring into this area, which is what it is, I can't believe local authorities have allowed this to take place. Unbeknownst to me, I started building a home on our property for my entire family and friends to enjoy, and hopefully would stay in my family for generations. Had I known these were coming in, I would have never have built this house. Furthermore, my property taxes have tripled since I built this home, and I truly believe if these are allowed to be erected, I would never be able to get my investment back out of my property and my house, which is something I never wanted, but now I have to seriously actually consider. I promise if you let these go in, someone will owe us locals a serious decrease in our tax liabilities for our homes, for the inconvenience and the intrusion in our personal and our private lives. In closing, from what I understand, these monstrosities will be left after they no longer work and after the companies no longer want to fix or service them. I would like to know, is there an exit strategy for removing them, and who's paying for this? And I would like to know about the environmental impact of their existence and their removal. Who's going to compensate me for my losses, because I and the majority of the locals are getting nothing but the problems and financial losses jammed down our throats. There's no choice. We were given no choice. We don't have rolling blackouts here. We don't have brownouts here. We don't have a shortage in electricity here. They're not creating jobs. They're not doing anything for us. Please stop the further destruction of our beautiful county. I'm asking you to say no and to stop more from going up, because you have the power to do this. I would like you to do one thing, because like one lady pointed out, this isn't about studies or what people are saying they can, can't, will, or won't do. We have a perfect example living and spinning right down the road. I really, really think, because you have the power to do this, that you should take their invitation, spend a little bit of time there, experience it for yourself, and see if it's in the public's best interest before you make your decision. I think we would all like for you, the people in power, to experience it for yourself, then make that call and tell the other people that you work with. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
I do want to clarify one other point. Actually, the Public Service Commission does not have the power to stop the project from going up. They can deny the CPCN to EverPower to Cassadaga Wind LLC, but the certificate that was granted by the Siting Board in January is transferable. And so if the commission were to find that Cassadaga LLC or its parent corporation or anyone in that chain was not financially viable enough and able to finance the construction of the windmills, Cassadaga Wind can sell that certificate to another company that can demonstrate that they are financially viable and that they can finance the project. So, again, the only reason I bring this up is because there are a lot of comments, and that's what I tried to explain at the beginning of the hearing when I read the Secretary's notice, that a lot of the issues that were being discussed tonight were decided back in January of 2018. And that is not why we are here tonight. We are here tonight to look specifically at the books and records and the accounting financial statements of Cassadaga Wind LLC to determine if they are the corporation that is financially able to build these turbines.
Mr. Leakey, can I ask you a question, please? No, can I ask you a question, please, though? No, I need to ask you a question, though. We have shown you, there have been two people that have worked on a study with help from economists and a physicist have shown that the economic impacts, the detriments far outweigh the positives. So you keep talking about this project being positive, but you're looking at...
I am not talking about the project being positive in any way, shape, or form. I am taking no stance on the project.
Okay.
I am making a statement that the Siting Board made determinations that included economic impacts to this area, that included shadow flicker and visual impacts, that included wetlands, bird and bat conservation studies, that included noise and the requirements that Cassadaga Wind needs to construct their turbines to comply with. Also with setbacks from property lines, from residences and things like that. These are all issues that have been decided. We had a public statement hearing in January 9th of 2017 that discussed all of those issues. Then we had a week and a half hearing that was held here in this fire department down in the room.
I know, and I've been here for all of that,
July.
but there was no any discussion about mitigating loss of property values and people that can't sell their homes.
That was part of the discussion that occurred during the hearing phase back in July, and that was part of the Siting Board's order. Again, this is a very limited, narrow look that the Commission has as to the financial viability. I am taking no stand on the project. I'm not arguing on behalf of anyone. I am just saying that's the way things stand legally for why we are here tonight. So I don't want people to get the wrong idea and to go away from here tonight thinking that if they make a strong enough case on these emotional issues, that the Commission can somehow stop, by denying a CPCN, can somehow stop the wind project from being built. That has to go through another avenue. That has to go through challenging the Siting Board's order or some other method. a denial of the CPCN simply will result in the ability of Cassadaga Wind to either say, okay, we won't build it ourselves, or we can sell our certificate to someone who can. So I just want people to understand that that is what we're dealing with tonight. Christine Montillo.
I live in Buffalo. My husband and I live in Buffalo, and
Basically, as the gentleman before me was saying, a lot of stuff. I don't have an address here on Plank Road in Cherry Creek because I live in Buffalo and I have land here, and my husband and I worked for 25 years. He worked to save money to buy land here. It's a beautiful area, and I'm sorry, you're going to hear kind of the same thing from me as you've heard from a lot of people, because even though I have land here, and even though I pay taxes here, none of these windmill companies that started with EverPower ever informed us of anything happening here. The only letter I got from them, one letter asking me where I had a water well. If I had a water well. I just bought the property 5 years ago. I had no idea what it was. It's taken me 5 years to find the back of my land. Okay? The next letter I got was the contract that one of the gentlemen just got. It's a hush contract. That's what they sent. It wasn't to put a windmill on my property. It was to offer me $1,500, sign this contract, and you cannot complain about the noise. They know that there's noise. They know that there's health issues. They know this. And on the contract, I did take it to my lawyer, and I had them check it. And she says it's not worth anything, because right there it says they have the right to stop paying you at any time. You're going to stop paying me? What is that, an honest contract? I'm going to sign this if I sell my land, if I can sell it, because I have 6 windmills going up all around me. The gentleman owns almost 500 acres. 6 windmills right on my property line. They have never, none of the windmill companies have ever been able to send me any mail except for that contract. But their surveyors have managed to find their way on my property to put their own stakes where I've already had a survey done that I've paid for. I've called them. They said, that's not our problem. Where we put our survey is where our land is. Now I have to fight their surveyors? Second surveyor came out this June. Turned around, they're on my cabin porch. Because I have cameras around. I have game cameras. 2 people on my porch measuring my cabin. I managed to zoom in, find the name of the surveyor company, and my cabin is up on a hill. You can't see it from the road. They went over my cable, my posted signs, walked onto my porch, measuring my property, called the surveyor. He says, we're on the wrong property. We're on the wrong street. How do you know where these windmills are going? Are they going where they're supposed to? If their surveyors can't even find where they're supposed to be surveying? Or is the surveyors lying to me? All he said was, you're getting six windmills. The closest one will be 2,500 away from the highway. Can't tell you if it's going to be real close to your cabin. All I can tell you is you'll be able to see them all. Good luck to you. I said, stay off my property. A week later, they're back on my property. I called them again. You touch or go on my property. I have nothing to do with these windmills. You come on my property again, I'm having you arrested. They don't care. They don't care where their surveyors are walking. They don't care where these windmill people are going. They think they own everything. And I'm sick of it. I have 2 grandchildren that we've worked very hard to have our dream to go out in the woods, and we're here only here on the weekends. I feel so bad for these people that have to live here every day. My grandchildren aren't going to be living out here. I'll sell this. I'll burn my cabin down, and I'll let it just sit. Let that land sit there, because this is a disgrace to what you're doing to these people in this country, in this area, that's beautiful area. And you, sir, you're in your 80s. I wish you the best of luck with the rest of your life, but those windmills probably will be here ruining everybody else's life when you pass. Think about that. Think about that. Thank you.
Next is Angela Bittinger, and then Teresa Gretel.
Hi. When we say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning in school or wherever you happen to be, a football game or something like that, we're pledging allegiance to the republic for which it stands. A republic is a form of government in which a state is ruled by representatives of the citizen body. And that's you guys. That's why we're here tonight. We trust our representatives to do what is right for the people. I grew up in Arkwright. I've spent my entire life there. I moved down to Forestville for about 7 years, and I came back to Arkwright because that's the place that I call home. And that's the place that I'll always compare other places to. I'm here to ask everybody, and truthfully, I don't care if it makes a difference in your decision because it's going forward anyways, but I'm more so wanting to talk to the people where it's going to be. I want you guys to really consider what your future looks like. I will tell you that you do not know what you have until it's gone. I live on Center Road in Arkwright at Ground Zero. My house is basically a postcard for what not to do. The wind turbines are horribly loud. If you think they're not and you've stopped by the side of the road and you've listened on a particular day, come back on a different day. It varies. Sometimes they turn them down, sometimes they turn them up. When we go to bed at night, they get louder. It does change, but I actually feel ashamed to say that I was convinced several years ago as a young college student that the wind turbines were green energy and that we should be supporting these in our county. I never knew how big they were going to be in the final stages, and I surely didn't know how close they were going to be to houses. So anyways, if you ever lived through the construction phase of the wind turbines, which I unfortunately did this summer with my children, you will realize there is nothing green about these things. It was constant truck traffic starting at 5 in the morning every single day. Jake brakes going off down the hill, waking us up. Super loud, 5 a.m. The logging camp was right across the street from my house. Constant beeping of equipment. Beep, beep, beep. It was ridiculous. Honestly, it's enough to get on anybody's nerves. So you're going to learn with time that unfortunately we've been duped. They told us they're green. They're not. Wait until you see how much stuff goes into this. They are too close to houses. They should not be as close as they are. When you get a neighbor agreement with that company, you're signing up for about $3 a day when you do the math. You're giving up your peace and quiet is what you're giving up for $3 a day. Neighbors don't speak to neighbors. These people over here were not making this stuff up. Friendships are being destroyed. Families are being destroyed. Children are being impacted. For the people with potential wind farm contracts, I want you to really consider in terms of economics other ways that you might be able to add to your income that won't affect your neighbors. Build a little cabin out in your woods that you rent for $100 a night. Bring tourists into the area so they can enjoy the beauty of our area while you help your own economic situation. Allow your neighbors to remain your friends. Don't be tempted by the money that you're being offered. If I had experienced what I'm experiencing now, I never, ever would have put on a green shirt and supported the wind farms the way that I did when I was in college. Wind energy might be appropriate for areas that have no humans nearby, but they are surely not appropriate for the area that we're living in. There is nothing that we can do in Arkwright now, and so I've moved on from thinking that anything is ever going to be done about my situation. But when I look at people who are thinking about doing this to their own backyards, that's where I'm focusing my energy. People who are really considering getting a turbine, you need to think about the cost not only of what you're going to be listening to out your window, but the cost of losing your friends and your neighbors and basically ruining the neighborhood. You can't put a dollar amount on relationships. These dollars that they're waving in front of you are not worth the cost to your heart when nobody in the town wants to talk to you anymore. They're going to play dirty tricks, these corporations. They're going to try to convince you, oh, all of your neighbors have already signed. You're going to have to look at them. You might as well sign as well. Don't trust corporate America. Trust your heart. When the checks come rolling in and your friends and neighbors go rolling out, you're going to start to regret your decision. And I know this firsthand. I understand that times get tough, but I do not believe that this is the answer. So please consider what you are doing. Consider what your future looks like. In the future, are you willing to leave your home? Because that's the point where I'm at. If I was the property owner that someone talked about earlier, who the town board member told me last week at the meeting that he would pay me $45,000 for my house, which he knows that I paid $90,000 for, or almost $90,000 in 2016. So obviously, if he's offering and admitting publicly at a board meeting that he'll give me 50% of what my house was paid for 2 years ago, obviously property values have crashed. They might try to tell you it's not going to happen, but it's going to happen. I can walk away from this house. The only thing, if I walk away, that it's going to hurt is my credit. So I can hurt my credit score. I can walk away. Other young couples like myself and my family and other young couples that surround me, they can all walk away from their houses. They can foreclose on them. The bank will own it. Nobody's going to want to buy it. But the young families that work hard to pay taxes are going to desert these towns, resulting in tax base losses. Who's going to want to purchase a house that's next to an airport where the jets come in and they never seem to turn off their engines? I was also told by the same town official that I have to hush up and play nice because I have that agreement, because the owner before us signed that agreement, which happened to be his daughter. So the agreement was signed and it runs with the land. It doesn't run with the owner. So if you sell your house and your land, that agreement sticks with the land. It's not the person. So he told me that because I have an agreement on my land, I better shut my mouth. And people were there to witness this. Well, they can come and cancel my agreement. I'd gladly give up the $8 a day that I'm getting from them, if it means I can have my peace and quiet back, and if it means that they have to tear down the couple that are so close to my house. I'd give up the $8 a day. The government that you represent, folks, is by the people, for the people. Let us not forget that our founding fathers and their desires that they had, they wanted to let each of us have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They did not have a desire for a few of us to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and cash. Please do what you know is best for the majority of the people, your constituents.
Next is Teresa Brettel, and then Robert Holland.
Hi, I'm Teresa Brettel, Judge, Commissioner, thank you. And I'm going to complete the Pledge of Allegiance because it says, with freedom and justice for all. Not just a few, for all. Also, I found this on the internet that I'd like to share. It's the development and integration of renewable energy, lessons learned from Germany. I can't pronounce these 4 German men's names, but it was put out July 2014. Executive summary. Well-intentioned policymakers in Germany and other European countries created renewable energy policies with generous subsidies that have slowly revealed themselves to be unsustainable, resulting in profound, unintended consequences for all industry stakeholders. While these policies have created an impressive rollout of renewable energy resources, they have also clearly generated disequilibrium in the power markets, resulting in significant increases in energy prices to most users, as well as value destruction for all stakeholders, consumers, renewable companies, electric utilities, financial institutions, and investors. It would be very nice if we could learn from other countries. What negative impacts have they experienced? From what I've seen, this appears to be a big scam that some of us have fallen prey to. If property values drop, tax bases will as well. And how will this make this project economically feasible? Like she said, if people are leaving, we don't have the tax base. You know, some people think it's going to generate jobs. If I believe EverPower said 3 to 5 jobs, wow, that's incredible. I can't believe how many jobs. And then those short-term jobs will come in with all the deconstruction, or, you know, cutting the rainforest, or not rainforest, all of our forests, and doing all the building of everything. That's going to be the jobs. And we know those are going to be jobs of people that live out of town, because that's what happened in Arkwright. So I'm just asking you to err on the side of caution, do more research. I don't think there could be too much research done. Please reject the CPCN. And I also want to say that I have observed something here tonight. Back about 2.5 years ago, when EverPower had a meeting in this building, I was one of the few people that were here in the community. They had all kinds of food and everything, and I thought, oh, I'm going to come to this meeting and learn about the wind power and what's going to happen. I thought it would be kind of a town hall meeting setup or format. No, it wasn't. We had a little cluster here, 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 and here, and you would walk around and talk to EverPower if you had questions. Conquer and divide, that's exactly what they did. How come all these people don't even know about the fact that they were having them in their yard? Because Article 10 process stated that they were supposed to inform the public. Public involvement. Where was the public involvement? Nobody here knows about this. Just a few of us knew. And then we formed our Concerned Citizens group because there were just a few of us. We're like, wow, obviously nobody knows about it, because if they did, they'd be here standing up like they are today. And this reflects it. These people didn't know. They didn't come through on their share. They did not do what they were supposed to do. EverPower and their attorneys. They should have notified the public. There should have been a vote. It should have been just left to the siting board, which in my opinion was unfair. 7 siting board members, 5 of which are located in Albany, that work for Governor Cuomo. 2 local people. So let's say the 2 local people voted no. You know darn well the Albany members are going to vote yes. We're not stupid. This is unfair. This is a horse and pony show. It's a big scam. Corporate America at its best. So I'm asking you to please reject it, because this may be our one and only chance to put this thing off. Not that it'll be canceled, but the people here feel that this is not economically feasible, and there's proof of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Robert Holland and then John Yanni.
I don't like microphones. Is this on? Okay. I'll see if I can speak loud. Yeah, I'll see if I can speak loud enough so you can hear me. I've been in Arkwright for a considerable period of time. I'm the person that has cell phone issues, and my wife is on hemodialysis in our house. So this is a health issue. But that isn't actually the reason why I was going to speak, or what I was going to speak about. I was going to speak about PTSD, which is a recognizable health phenomenon, and it's going to cost an awful lot of money for any place that's going to be involved in putting up wind turbines. Because what's going to come out is going to be the evidence of these people and what they're speaking about is going to be recognized as a health phenomenon. There should be price tags attached to that. And as you begin looking at the situations in Arkwright and all these other places, there have been threats made against people, which is also a big multiplier in PTSD. Now, why would I be interested in that? And what was I doing in Arkwright? I was in the U.S. military as a social work psychology specialist, which means I was involving myself in creating the case histories for all soldiers in Vietnam. I did this for 3 years. When I came back to the United States, it was the same MOS. So I feel the stress of that particular community, but the community has ample evidence as to why they should be special consideration. For one thing, there was a very well-educated planning board in that community. They were all green. They had their own turbines, they had their own electric power. Kathy Jackson was also on it. Art Wolfson was on it. And there was a universal rejection of wind power because we began looking at these particular issues. So we started, digging our way through. At first, we assumed that this was a good idea. Then we learned and proved to ourselves that conservation was half as costly as this project. Therefore, there is no justification for this particular project. What is conservation? It means changing the light bulbs, putting better insulation in the houses, creating mass transit systems. There's many ways of being a green community, and we were at the forefront of it. As Kathy mentioned, we were the #1 small community in Western New York. So there's a price tag attached to our community. But that was not all that occurred there. The one thing that was really impressive was that planning board was eventually sort of kicked out one way or another due to an election process, which is a very close vote, and there was a control over the election process in the years since. So we had no free elections in that community when you really evaluate what went on. That will be a part of any lawsuit in the future if these people intend to process it. I don't know whether that will happen, but there are lawyers waiting in the wings in all sorts of directions just wanting that to happen. And I think it's a very bad thing for a community to do. Right now, there is very poor communication. That is also a health phenomenon that needs to be looked at. When you have people with conflicts of interest on a town board and they appoint people that are going to control their tax rate in that community, it was a very well orchestrated plan over 15 years. It took that long for them to actually accomplish this thing. So there's a lot of evidence. And it goes back further than just the wind turbines. There's evidence of that too. So what happened? When the law that the planning board put together very thoroughly was scrutinized by an environmental lawyer, was presented to the town board, it was brought up and thrown away. And that same meeting, that's our supervisor, invited the wind power salespeople to come in and take the floor. So we were not allowed a full hearing of a law that we worked very long and hard to produce. If you don't think that that causes stress, I feel stress right now. I have headaches. My handwriting is gone down, and it is actually could be caused by the wind turbine phenomenon. It could be caused by an accident that I had back in January. I was in an automobile accident. 1 month before I had it, there was a screw put through the tire in my front tire in my car, and I replaced it. Those were new tires. I replaced it, and then when I went into to return home I was on Route 83 turning into 79 in Arkwright. I was involved in an accident. I don't know what actually occurred. The accident caused was listed as black ice on the road, but I noticed that there was a big turn into a hidden culvert. It flipped the car, went into the road. It pancaked, it destroyed the undercarriage, and I slid through guardrails sideways. I had 2 brain bleeds, 3 broken ribs, and broken arm. I wasn't expected to live. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, maybe I am. So, at that particular point, I see the town for what it is. I didn't know whether that was an attempt to kill me. That should be in your report, because that has actually occurred to other people in this town. There was a police report numbers of years after a town board meeting, which I was videotaping. So I did it 3 times. The third time, 45 minutes after the meeting ended, there was somebody who came to the front of my house and shot the windows with a paintball gun. I called the police the next morning when I discovered that there was a reason for the loud noise and the person driving away. And the sheriff commented on the fact that it was a very good grouping of these paintballs. So I don't know who did that. But that actually refers back to the accident, and I do wonder exactly what happened on that particular day. So that's occurring to a lot of people. The fact that you can threaten people with their taxes and being able to question whether or not your taxes should go down. And I'm just an artist. I moved to this place. I created a nature center, a 53-acre nature center. The reason why the wind industry left me alone, because I was in the target. I could have had a wind turbine, yes. I could have had them too. And what occurred that stopped them was 17 phone calls in. I said, I chose the best use of my land. And that's what I did. So it's affected my art career in a lot of ways, but if this accident, or the stress of it, or the low frequency sound doesn't force us out of our house, we don't know what we're gonna do. We don't know where we're gonna go. This is a great deal of stress and planning for people that really are not equipped to move. We're not young in this particular community. We know that Governor Cuomo has this great agenda of creating a green space. But we know also from other hearings that there was a woman in Sinclairville at the high school early on in this particular thing, and I don't know her name, I think it was Amanda Carey, a very beautiful blonde woman. She talked about the bird counts that result from these wind turbines. They're very much underrated. You have to get out early in the morning. She gave the whole picture of what it was like. That isn't the only thing you need to be concerned in your money equations. The other one is water wells, and water is precious. But in Arkwright, a lot of the community did not have water wells. They relied on spring water. And the benefit of spring water is it didn't carry the contamination or the challenges, I guess the DEC would call it insults, of the glaciation that took place in the region. And why would I know about that? Because I am a water well driller, second generation, chose water well drilling rather than going into fine art and marketing what I had. That's why I built a nature preserve. I drew the curators to me rather than me chasing the curators. And it worked. It worked well enough to bring the director of Albright Knox and 2 other curators from Albright Knox to my barn. So here we are, and in the midst of this conflict involving somebody from Albright Knox who thinks these are a dream, that this is a great improvement of the whole, for the whole region. Well, I would like a conversation with the governor, and I don't think he would like to talk to me, but he should, because he's making a huge mistake. Amanda Carey mentioned that the improvements to Niagara Falls would be made, and it would change the production at Niagara Falls to 26%. New York State is going for what, 50%? So a lot of his plans are dreams and unfounded, and he would be much better served politically if he would have gone the green route, which would have been conservation. Thank you.
Thank you. John left. Okay, David, and then Ginger Satruder.
Hello, everybody. My name's David Monteleone. I live in Buffalo, and I recently purchased land in Cherry Creek about 5 years ago. And the one thing that drew me here was the beautiful scenic views and the sports, the hunting and the fishing. And I just don't understand how all of this transpired without every property owner in Chautauqua County having a voice in saying whether or not the windmills should be here to begin with. I feel like everybody that lives out here is going to suffer more than me, but I also feel that they've been railroaded in having this shoved down their throat. And I just don't think it's right. There's got to be a way to reverse this. I know some people are making money on it. Good for them. But what about the rest of the people that should have a voice in our democracy? That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Your Honor, Commissioner. I have more formal remarks prepared, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I'm here. I'm an attorney in Cattaraugus County, and I have devoted a significant amount of my practice in the past year to helping various community groups who are facing the onslaught of big wind. I do this without compensation. I don't take a penny of intervenor funds to do that. And it's been very eye-opening to me to see exactly how hard the fight is for these community members who are facing big wind. And I think what you're seeing here tonight is just a tremendous amount of frustration and it's at every level, because I can tell you in my town, which we are also slated for a project, which is before your commission, which is how I got started learning more about wind than I ever wanted to learn in my whole legal career. There's a lot of corruption. So for instance, in my small town, 2 people on my town board are slated to get windmills. This has not been disclosed by the wind developer. We are currently meeting with the Attorney General to go over all of the ethical violations of that particular company, which is not the company here. But as I talk to people across the state, and we now have a pretty big network of people, it's amazing to me the stories continue to be the same, even with different developers. So unfortunately, it's a terrible lesson, but I'm learning a lot here.
Mr. Would you like to identify the town that you...
Yes, I live in Farmersville, New York, and we have, as I said, 2 out of our 5 board members are financially benefiting from the Invenergy project, and they are not recusing themselves, by the way, from the vote. So, very similar to having people decide to go off the town board so that someone can be appointed who's pro-wind, which is what I understand happened here. So I did actually go and read Article 68, because I did want to know exactly what was going to be the focus of your inquiry this evening. And I saw that there were 5 areas of inquiry in this particular proceeding. The economic feasibility of the corporation's ability to finance improvements, to render safe, adequate, and reliable service, to provide just and reasonable rates, and whether the issuance of a certificate is in the public interest. So I actually went and did a little research, legislative history on this particular statute to know what is meant by safe, adequate, and reliable service, and what does it mean to be in the public interest. And strangely enough, there's not really much information. So I might actually beg to differ with you, Your Honor, and say that when all of these people are talking about noise and shadow flicker and impacts, that really safety might be one of those issues that should be looked at.
It normally would be in a Section 68 hearing before the Public Service Commission. The difference here is that we have Article 10, which has superseded certain sections and removed the jurisdiction of the Public Service Commission in certain areas. And so the Siting Board made a decision back in January that overlaps on some of those issues that you just mentioned that you found in Section 68. And that's what I mean by some of those issues that are being raised tonight have already been decided by the Siting Board, and therefore the legislature, because it enacted Article 10, has removed that from Public Service Commission jurisdiction.
Yeah, understood. I understood that Article 10 really took over both Home Rule and CEQA and all of those related issues. But so I did decide to focus my comments on the economic issues, because I do think they're of concern. I think central to the inquiry here is the financial wherewithal of the certificate holder. What exactly does the Public Service Commission, or indeed this community, know about the certificate holder? Cassadaga Wind LLC. As a lawyer, I know one thing: the use of the words LLC has meaning, and significant meaning. It means limited liability company. It means that liabilities are limited to the assets of the corporation. One of the legal beauties of an LLC is it allows an undercapitalized company to easily walk away from its obligations a lot. What is this company's assets? What's its debt to equity ratio? How well capitalized is it? What's its liquidity? What are the commitments of the investors? What do these commitments look like? We've never seen them. I know when I've talked to people in this community, they don't know much about this organization. What is the financial relationship of the certificate holder to its upstream investors and owners? I don't think there's been any due diligence on this in any manner. We don't know anything about the contractual commitments between the certificate holder and its parent. Wind is highly subsidized. We know that it wouldn't actually exist if it weren't for the subsidies. So the economic wherewithal of the corporation as a certificate holder, I think, is a significant inquiry, and it has to be scrutinized, and scrutinized well. A lot of this information is not publicly available. even with my assets of my law firm, the people that I have there to deploy in this endeavor, and my own training as a lawyer, I really couldn't find much of anything on Cassadaga Wind LLC. I was able to find some things about the parent, and I think this community is entitled to know who is going to be forcing themselves into bed with them and to scrutinize the ability of this certificate holder to see this through to the bitter end. And I think there's actually a question of fact that needs to be resolved by an evidentiary hearing to have these issues well vetted. So just doing a little bit of research on the parent, you go to Cassadaga Wind Project. Maybe I'm crazy, but it already has Energy there as its, upstream kind of investor or parent. So when you go do research on Energy, which is publicly traded, although not publicly traded in the US, I was able to find some pretty interesting financial documents, including the document that greatly described it's about 110 pages long and was not very fun reading. But it does describe the relationship of these various entities and the investments and how these things are going to be traded around. And I guess the thing I found most interesting was there it said the executive board and the supervisory board, and this is of when they're talking about the investors and their report on this investment, believe that the complexity and the extended time horizon until the completion of the transaction planned by the bidder constitute a considerable risk. The executive board and the supervisory board see the risk that the bidder will not be able to successfully integrate Energy and thus to fully realize the full value potential of Energy. Also, a prolonged period of uncertainty as regards the integration process and the future organizational structures might place considerable strain on the employees of the Energy Group. It should be noted in this context that Energy, for quite some time now, has already been experiencing an intensive period of restructurings, including the IPO, initial public offering, and that the transaction envisaged by the bidder may also result in a stronger focus being put on the internal organization, as well as increased costs for external advisors in the next few years before the enterprise will be able, based upon a stable and efficient organization, to concentrate on its customers and its markets. And it went on to say ultimately Energy will do what it's always done, which is on an ongoing basis review whether or not there should be possible portfolio transactions, meaning a trading around of assets. So ultimately, who is going to own this project and for how long, and what kind of economic wherewithal do they have? And I think that's something that nobody sitting in this room here, except for potentially the attorney for the developer, I'd be really surprised if at this point the Public Service Commission knows that. And I do think that that is an issue of fact that should be developed in an evidentiary hearing. Thank you.
Natalie Zybert from Cherry Creek. Okay, I feel it isn't financially beneficial because the negatives far outweigh the positives in this case. The government does studies at Montauk. It's out on Long Island by New York City, way out on the end of the island. These were black ops studies for ultra low frequency. And the people in the town went crazy. They got violent. They burglarized stuff and did all kinds of stuff. Besides that, the windmills don't do anything for our scenery. They aren't going to benefit us as far as our financial. They aren't cutting our power bills. Our area of Chautauqua County rests on 3 tectonic plates. We have earthquakes up here all the time. We had one 3 years ago where our porch shifted because the plates shifted. Those ice sheets off the blades, they have those things out west. I used to drive truck, and I've seen sheets of ice come down. What is going to happen when the power comes off? Because we have power outages every winter up here because, we get ice storms. It rains and then it snows and then it rains and then it snows and then, a tree limb falls down and then the power goes out on my hill at least, once or twice a month, every winter. It happens. And you can't say that those things get power to them because it cuts out, because this is Western New York. And Mom said they had heaters in them, but what if there isn't a backup generator, the generator fails and these sheets of ice. This is western New York here. This isn't New Mexico where they only get half an inch of snow. This isn't, out west California where they don't get snow. You have to look at the area that you're trying to put them in. Look at the wind things that you can collect on the beach. They should direct these studies to where it's more viable. These 600-foot wind turbines aren't the answer for this area. Solar energy of some kind, perhaps, but look at Kinzu Dam and how there was a railroad there. People will know it's on Mysteries of the Abandoned if you watch those channels. It used to be a railroad bridge but they made it into a tourist attraction after a tornado went by in 1963, and then in the 80s someone turned it into, there's a bridge over Kinzu now that it's halfway. And I could picture like a turbine on one hill going across. So many years ago, Dallas Sam was telling me about how there was going to be, instead of where Kinzu Dam is now, they were going to put it over East Mud Lake or West Mud Lake, one of those mud lakes. But what if you had one of those like turbine towers on one hill and then another one on Ball Hill, and you had a trolley going across it? And wow, we could have like this ski lift kind of thing or a tram car kind of thing and have a tourist attraction instead of those turbines creating this noise. Have something pretty and a cross-country ski trail going around like East Mud Lake. That kind of thing to bring up the tourism instead of trying to bring in these people from out of state to do work in our state. You're saying you're creating jobs. You're bringing outside help to bring in these jobs, and then you're creating 3 jobs. You should promote tourism and look at studies that are more environmentally friendly instead of building 600 or 500-foot turbines that create noise. Work with what you've got and vote no on what you're doing. I can't drive truck anymore because of surgeries that I had that caused seizures. And now I have to be on anti-seizure meds. And I dread when they get closer to me in Cherry Creek, because the flicker effect is already happening to my TV and my cell phone, and I lose my signal. And am I gonna start having seizures? I'm on anti-seizure medicine. I haven't had one since the surgeries, but is that going to change now because I'm going to be affected by it? It's a health issue, and this is not in the public interest. It's not beneficial for us. And yeah, you're saying it's covered, and that's just a loophole, and it's, as someone just said, big money gets their grip and whatever, but thank you.
I have Angelo Graziano.
This is the important one right here. I was on the board with Villanova for the Seekers, and I seen all the crooked stuff going on. I seen all this guy's making money, this person's making money. I seen how the wind company worked with Mr. Spitzer, paid Mr. Spitzer through the thing. I seen all the crooked crap going on. The biggest thing they did was they kept everything from the public. They kept it from the public here, they kept it from the public in Villanova, they kept it from the public in Arkwright. Our job is to take care of the people. And you're an officer. These were seekers, there was nothing they could do about it, but Article 10, this is the first one. This is the first one. You make a difference, you make a difference, and it got voted on, and it got approved. Those people on the siting board were appointed by Como. All they seen was stuff on a computer. All these people spilled out their guts to tell you. What you heard today was people's life. You got a chance to bring it back to the siting board. And maybe you can't do nothing about Cassadaga, but you can do it about the rest. This will make a difference. This will make a difference.
I want to mention that's the last of the people that have signed up to speak tonight. This does not end your opportunity to comment. Again, the commission will continue to receive comments on this case through October 8th, 2018. You can submit comments through the internet or mail. There's no name on this. Okay, there's no name.
Who wants to speak?
Can I readdress?
Just a moment. You spoke already. Yes, you did. Thank you. You can come out to the podium. Diane Clark.
Well, thank you for taking my comments, allowing me, an imperfect person, to stand before you and make some comments. I guess I could go back in laws to our dear old state of Maine. You know, there once was a law made by the commissioners in Maine that it was against the law to feed convicts lobster. There's good reason for that. It was against the law. You speak as though the commission was some almighty force like those commissioners were in Maine, but I don't think the commission has all the facts, like lobster could be good for you. I think you've heard the facts of what people have said here. And I hope you have absorbed the emotion that these people who have come before you today, they're a mini revolution. And they're saying they don't want to take it anymore. And they're armed with something more than just their emotion and some statistics. They're actually armed with those wind turbines that have gone up. And they've seen the negative, the real effects of the wind turbines and the contracts that have been signed that are really immoral. I hope you take back to the commission that they can make mistakes, and putting a date on a calendar and saying it was done on January 17th. Maybe these people don't recognize that date. Maybe they recognize the date of their children or their grandchildren's birthday, but they're not going to hold to some imperial power that says it's already done, that they are revolting against these things. We may be a small collective group of people, but we may have force outside of what this commission says they have. So thank you for taking those comments into consideration.
Thank you very much. Again, you can still put comments to the Public Service Commission, and comments are requested by October 8th, 2018. You can submit them through the internet at www.dps.ny.gov and search on that page for case 18-E-0399. And you don't need to write this information down. Mr. Scott Dean of the Department of Public Service has that information where you have the cards available. You can also post comments, or submit comments electronically to the Secretary for the Public Service Commission, Kathleen Burgess. Her email is secretary@dps.ny.gov, or by regular mail to 3 Empire State Plaza, Albany, New York, 12223-1350. You can also call a toll-free opinion line, 1-800-335-2120. When you call and leave your comments, please be sure to reference Cassadaga Wind and, if possible, case 18E-0399. This concludes our public statement hearing for this evening. There will be a procedural conference. We're going to break for about 10 minutes so that people who want to leave can get their stuff together and get out, so that the attorneys who are here for the procedural conference can get ready to participate in that. Thank you very much. We're off the record.